Hello everyone. So there's been some, let's say, controversy in regards to Alpha and Fox's latest series of videos. The first one of which is titled "Proper Way to Employ AGM-45 Shrike," quote unquote, and my response to why it isn't exactly a correct claim, and especially why I think that's the wrong way, that's the wrong thing to teach to people who are trying to learn this for the first time, that they shouldn't use loft seeker with WRCS because it doesn't work. That's simply incorrect. Now I have written a very long, in-depth explanation of how the WRCS system works based on hours of testing and based on heat blurs, the developer's own explanation of how the WRCS system works, and I have explained why you do some things the way you do them. But anyway, in the subsequent period, especially since Alpha Fox's video came out, I have written many thousands of words trying to explain what is being done wrong in the video and why he isn't, and people in general aren't getting a reliable performance from the loft seekers when using the WRCS mode. But it appears that reading or writing those long walls of text aren't very helpful in regards to getting the point across. People don't seem to be reading them with the attention that it requires, and so I'm having to explain the same things over and over again and still being asked what is being done wrong in the video. So I thought maybe it'd be better if I just threw together a short demonstration of how to do it, in hopes that this makes things clear for people. Anyway, just as a heads up, I've never recorded a video before for YouTube. I don't know how to edit, so there will be no editing on this. This is recorded live, so it won't be smooth. I expect there to be some hiccups. I hope for your patience and understanding. Here's the setup. We have a target, an SA3 installation. I'm sorry for the twitchy Shrike. It sometimes behaves that way. There's a SA3 installation on this tiny little island over there, about 30 miles away. We have 4 missiles, 2 loft seekers, 2 direct seekers, just so we can do a direct side-by-side comparison. The direct seekers are on the outer pylons, the loft seekers are on the inner pylons. So let's start our run and initial setup. Here we go. So WRCS mode is activated by going into AGM-45 on the delivery mode selector. We go into ARM, short for anti-radiation missile, in the weapon selector. Target missile in the F-reject. All pylons selected. Side and air-to-ground mode. Master arm on. And let's start our run. Now I will do this at long range, just to show you that you can use these. Up to about 18, 19 miles with no issues, even if you don't loft them, throw them directly at the target. We are just crossing 21 miles now. I'm trying to keep it steady on the target to get an accurate reading. Passing 20 miles. Come on, Shrike, behave. Crossing 19 miles, pickle and pull up. I'm looking for command cues on the indexer. There comes the donut. I release my pull and just let it go. If I keep pulling, here's the problem, and here's what AlphaFox has been doing wrong the entire time. When the command cue comes on, excuse me, this is the direct seeker, by the way. You can tell by control surface activation already going on. It's trying to track the target. This is the loft seeker. This is the third missile, the other loft seeker. And this is the second direct seeker. Now it's already clear that this is not going to make it that far. It's already at 14,000 feet and it's going down below 500 knots. It's not going to make it. The loft seeker, on the other hand, have began their descent, and now they've gone through their initial launch altitude, which means they start activating. Now this is important. The loft seeker will activate once they go, well, once they descend further down than their initial launch altitude. Here's the second one. And they're both on target. The other one, as you can see, did not hit. Now the issue with and let's actually try to show that too. The issue with AlphaFox's method and why he was getting unreliable outcomes on using loft method is that he has been using the command cues once, because by the way the command cues only happen once you press and hold the release button. Before that, it acts more like a range indicator, and how it tells you what method you should employ to deploy. That being whether you should pull up or loft, release on while flying level, or release them on a dive. That's not important right now. There's more information on it, much more detailed information on it on the post that I've written on Reddit. Anyway, getting back to the topic, the issue with AlphaFox's delivery is that now I think what's happened is, and this is not just AlphaFox. I keep saying his name, but this is not really about AlphaFox. This is something that many people does, and they don't really realize what they're doing wrong. Here's the thing. So once you pickle and hold and start pulling up, you have the indexer command cue come up here. What it turns into the donut, which means the donut is there to indicate that the weapons will release in about 4 seconds. As soon as you press the weapon release button, WRCS starts calculating based on range, based on your speed and other things, and it starts calculating the optimal release points. And once that donut comes up, it tells you the weapons will release in about 4 seconds. At that point, you should keep the plane steady. What AlphaFox has been doing in every single video and every single run that he's done is that he keeps pulling, and the indexer cue turns into a down arrow, and that means you've pulled too far. That means the weapon is out of envelope for optimal release. And especially when you do that under, let's say, around 16-15 miles, the trajectory of the missile starts becoming, because keep in mind, the missile, it has a small basic pressure sensor on board. It memorizes the pressure altitude upon release. Let's say you launch at 20,000 feet. While lofting, the missile starts climbing up. it locks the control surface in place to save energy, right? So that it doesn't create unnecessary drag and increase range. So it locks the control surface in place, and then it starts diving down, right? It starts descending, and it only unlocks the control surfaces once you've gone below 20,000 feet a further amount. That means that if you're a bit too close to the target and you over-loft, and by that, by the way, by a bit too close, I mean you are launching above launch envelope. Now you're over-lofting, you're pulling too far, which means by the time the missile starts coming down and crosses your initial launch altitude, the missile is already too close to the target. And sometimes even in Alpha Fox's videos, some of those runs he's done in his latest video, the missile is actually so far ahead that it's practically right above the target when it crosses the initial launch altitude. And by the time it activates and unlocks the control surfaces, the target is beyond its 45 degree field of view. I mean, it can't see behind its back, right? So it just goes into the ground without even activating once. Let's demonstrate that, right? Shall we? Okay, so again, like last time, go into AGM-45 on the mode selector, select arm on weapon selector, target missile DF reject, side on air ground, and muscle arm on. Let's get a little bit closer. By the way, the altitude, in order to use loft seeker, the altitude doesn't really matter that much, but you should, I recommend you use, you don't employ or you don't release your weapon, you don't start your runs anything below like 13,000 feet to give the missiles enough time once they start descending. Because if you launch the missile at 10,000 feet, remember the missile needs to like descend down to like 8,000 feet or 9,000 feet before it activates, and that gives it too short amount of time to keep track of the target at that closing speed, especially if it's not directly flying towards the target and needs to correct. It won't have the time to correct. So anyway, okay. And take note that I'm not... oh, sorry. Okay. Pickle. It's about 14 miles. Going up. Index comes online. I keep pulling up. And now it's showing me down arrow. I've stopped pulling. It was steady at once I saw down arrow. Let's stabilize so we don't hear it stalling. Now this is direct seeker again, doing its own thing. This is the loft seeker. Look, it's already too high and too close. It started descending. This is the other one. This is the direct. The direct seeker will start tracking as soon as it launches. It leaves a rail, and that's kind of the problem, because you see those control. It's not smooth. It goes bang bang, which causes a lot of energy loss due to drag. Again, this. Okay, this this is a fluke. This is a fluke. It happened to be roughly in range. Okay, so that was a direct seeker that hit. Anyway, that was a fluke. That was not supposed. That was not supposed to happen. I should have pulled more, apparently. But anyway, the flight profile that it was significantly higher, right? And if I had pulled a bit further, instead of just stopped it as soon as I saw the down arrow, if I kept pulling up a little further, it would have overshot the target, because by the time it starts going through the activation altitude, like, it's already out of its field of view, which is what happened in the latest video that Alpen Fox showed, where he did like 4-5 runs, and the Loft Seeker missed every time. I have to say though, in the first run, the launch was on point. He actually launched them all on the donut, kept it steady. The problem there was that the launch altitude was too low, I think. It was around 10,000, and you can see that in the TAC view that, you know, they start coming down and they go through 10,000, and now they're too low, and they're not exactly flying straight at the target, so they have to correct. But the closing rate is too high, and it can't keep the targets in its field of view. It starts tracking, but it can't keep the target in field of view, and then it loses the track, and then it just goes limp, and then you can see the trajectory in the TAC view of that. Actually, it starts going down, it starts tracking, and then it loses track, and then it goes down. I don't know why I'm drawing the profile in the air, as if you can see it. But anyway, let's try this one more time. By the way, the reason why the direct seeker can actually hit the targets at that range is because you're over-lofting. Like I said, I mean, the direct seeker is not an invalid, or is not an incorrect way of employing that. It's just that using WRCS and following those cues, this is my entire point here. Using WRCS and following those cues will not allow direct seekers to reach the targets, because, like I said, WRCS is calibrated entirely for Loft Seeker. It assumes you have the Loft Seeker installed. It doesn't. The launch calculations, the release point it calculates, is for Loft Seekers. So if you actually follow the command cues and launch when the donut appears and keep it steady there, the Loft Seekers will go to targets very reliably, very reliably, and with high enough accuracy. The direct seekers won't, as you've seen in the first run. But in the second round, they were able to get, it was about, what, 15, 16 miles, if I'm around, let's say 15. And that's beyond the range that Hitler says is really usable for the direct seekers, or for this missile in general. But we were able to extend the range by quite a significant margin by over-lofting the missile, by giving it extra range, extra energy, so that even though it uses those control surfaces and creates a lot of drag, it has enough altitude and it has enough energy to reach the targets. But once again, we are over-lofting it. We are going above launch parameters and basically guessing at that point. That's why I say you shouldn't tell, because this is a tutorial, that video is a tutorial, you shouldn't tell people who are trying to learn how to do this thing that they shouldn't use Loft Seeker. Because what you're telling them is that they should follow the command cues to release these missiles, but you're telling them to deal with the direct seeker, which doesn't apply. Okay, let's go. Same thing. Once again, you need to make sure that you have entered. I'm sorry for the track IR. You have to make sure that you have entered the correct altitude in the screen. But because it's labeled, I'm not bothering with it.
SA3.
By the way, you don't actually need to use the ADI needles. I mean, I haven't been using it all this time. Obviously, using them helps, but this is not, strictly speaking, necessary. it's just an aid there to help you. And you absolutely don't need to like set it straight on. You don't have to center them religiously. Use them as a rough guide. That's where the target is. Right, 8. No, this is of course not 8. Come on, Trek IR, don't do this. It is important to get the pipper to the target as close as possible to get a correct range reading, because WRCS uses basic trigonometry. Right. So you may get, you will get false release calculation if the range you're pointing, if the target you're pointing at is not calculated properly. Anyway, 13 miles, pickle, Starmaple. Go on above. Oops. I'm still pulling there again, but it should be fine this time. We're a bit closer. Again, direct seeker doing its thing. Loft seeker going in a nice cruise. Direct seeker. Direct seeker. And you can already see it's gone. Look, it's at 21,000 miles. I don't actually remember when we launched, but it was around 15 miles, I'm guessing. Oh, come on. It's still... it's proving me wrong again. It's still tracking. Okay, this one's not tracking, because this actually launched a bit later. That was a direct seeker. That was the other direct seeker. That was the loft seeker that hit. Well, anyway, this one was the loft seeker that released later. This was a third missile. So it happened to be, even when it launched, it happened to be at a higher altitude and at a closer range than the second missile, the second loft missile. Anyway, I think I made the point of what I'm trying to demonstrate here, even though I made a bad job of it. I will showcase one more thing, another function of the WRCS mode that I mentioned in passing early on, and that is using it as a range indicator. Okay.
Mud on our nose, 12 o'clock.
Now I will get a little bit closer, because the range indication, or it also works as a means of gauging how to deploy the missile, because loft seeker is actually a misnomer. It doesn't mean that you need to loft, you need to pull up to deploy the missile. You can use loft seeker employing all sorts of whether in a dive, level flying, or pulling up, because like I said, WRCS already it acts like a dive the dive toss mode in dive bombing. It calculates, once you get the range and pickle, it calculates the release point automatically, and even if you pull or just keep flying straight and level or start diving, it will only release once those parameters are met. That's why some people have some confusion as to why once they press the button and hold, the missile doesn't release for another like 40-45 seconds. That's because, according to WRCS, based on your range or altitude, and the altitude you entered, the target altitude you entered on the bomb page, it calculates your release point, and it determines that you haven't met those parameters yet. Okay, so a bit closer here. Throw it out. Okay, so now you see the up arrow on the indexer. Now that doesn't mean you need to start pulling up. That means at this range, in order to reach a target, you need to employ the lofting method. That means you need to press pickle and then start pulling up until you see the donut, because after you press the pickle, it turns into command queue. The donut now, I'm still not pressing the release button. The donut now means you can reach the target, the missile can reach the target if you release it on level flight. It's still only acting as a range indicator or a method indicator right now. And as I get closer, it's going to turn into a down arrow, indicating that I need to deploy it in a dive. Now I press and pickle, it turns into command queue. I start pulling up, it's donut. I stop. Missiles start coming off. And then I just turn and then switch. And this is the loft missile here, you see? Doesn't matter how you deploy the loft missile, it's a misnomer. I don't know why they named it Loft Seeker. It's not actually Loft Seeker, by the way. In the game settings, in the rearm menu, it's it's actually named Loft Attack Profile. It doesn't say Seeker. It's not a Seeker, it's a profile. But anyway, that's long and short of it. I hope I was able to explain to you how and why WRCS does the things it does. It is using WRCS with the Loft Seeker is the correct method of using it, because that's what it was designed for. Once again, the direct seeker is not meant to be used with the WRCS mode, because WRCS mode does not calculate release solution for the direct seeker. It only assumes that you have the Loft Seeker, that's its default and only mode. And that's why I say you shouldn't tell people that they should stop using Loft Seeker with the WRCS mode. Precisely because this was the case in real life as well. WRCS mode with the Loft Seeker is the preferred and default and the most reliable method of delivering the Shrikes. The direct seeker mode is really only suitable. I mean, you can use it to deploy, like we've shown, like Alpen folks have shown, like other people have shown. You can use the direct seeker to deliver at longer ranges using the pull-up loft method. But if you use WRCS mode to do that, it's not really it has no bearing on it, because once again, I keep saying, WRCS mode does not calculate release solutions for direct seeker. All its calculations are based on Loft Seeker, which, like I said, upon launch starts flight. It locks the control surface in place and just coasts until the missile descends down enough from its initial launch altitude to start activating. And so that's why when you over-loft and release it beyond its release envelope, it will, especially at ranges under 15 miles, it will overshoot. It will not track. And that's about it. I hope this was hopeful. I hope you didn't mind my ramblings a bit, because like I said, this is my first time. I haven't written a script for it. This is off the cuff. And I hope it was helpful. Thanks for watching.